Dr. Z, do you love mimes?
Yeah, they're kind of scary, but I do love mimes.
Wouldn't you find it, a good mime is almost unbelievable.
Well, I tell you what, I saw one the other day caught in a clear box, and I was so worried, so concerned for him. I ran over there, and then I realized it wasn't a clear box. He fooled me.
Josh, do you like mimes?
Big fan.
Do you find them to be unbelievable?
Unbelievable.
Well, on today's show, we're interviewing an unbelievable guest who has an unbelievable story, but shockingly enough, he's not a mime.
What?
We're interviewing a guy who's not a mime.
No way.
He's going to share with us his story about turning badness into betterness, health and wellness. That's Dr. Bryan Ardis.
Well, if you think about it, that's probably a pretty good idea, because if you're interviewing a mime, it'd be hard for him to talk.
Somebody's got to turn that mime's mic up. Greg, we got to turn the mime's mic up. Frick.
Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce the show, but this show does. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women, 13 multi-million-dollar businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thrive Time Show.
Now, 3, 2, 1, here we go!
Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here.
Yes, 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 and a Dayquil-inspired yes to you. Dr. Bryan Ardis, welcome on to the Thrive Time Show. How are you, sir?
I'm super pumped to be on your show, Clay. Thanks for inviting me.
Hey, you are a man, a myth, a legend. You are a health and wellness expert, but I would love for you to share with the listeners out there about your background into this conversation. Tell us about kind of where your career started and what you do for a living.
Okay, so I don't know how much history you want, but I'll give you as much as you want.
Oh, give us all of it.
When I was 21 years old, my younger sister, I'm the oldest of 5 kids, my younger sister was 11. She had actually started experiencing some random symptoms of pain in all the joints of her body. Started out with not being able to open a door by gripping the doorknob, not being able to open up a bottle on a bottle of water. But she actually kept it hidden from us for several months until the point where she couldn't stand up while doing homework at a coffee table. And she was in extreme pain and just started crying, then started to tell us that over the last few months she's been going to bed at 7 o'clock at night to cry herself to sleep because she was in so much pain throughout her body. None of us were aware of this. We took her to 3 hospitals in Dallas, Texas. The third hospital, after 1 month stays at the other 2, she ended up at Scottish Rite's Hospital, where they diagnosed my sister. After doing muscle biopsies in her thighs, they diagnosed her with what's called systemic lupus erythematosus, and then took the opportunity to meet with me as the oldest sibling and my parents to tell us that it's a very rare condition. Most children don't acquire a condition like this. There is no known cause, no known cure for lupus. There are 3 treatment options, though. You are going to need to take these 3 drugs for the rest of your life, that being prednisone, methotrexate, and Plaquenil. 2 of those are chemotherapy drugs. One's a steroid, obviously. And then they made us aware that her lifespan will actually be cut off by the age of 40 because the drugs over time would destroy her kidneys and her liver. And she will never be able to bear children because the 2 chemo drugs have side effects of stillbirths and birth defects. So I just sat there and listened. And as he walked out the door and gave his apologies for the scenario that he had to share, my parents lost it crying. I looked at them and asked them, "Why are you crying?" And they said, "Show some sensitivity, Bryan. Your sister's been diagnosed with a terminal illness." And I said, "That's going to take her life." And I said, "No, they didn't. They never even said that. They said, we don't know what it is. We don't know what causes it. And there is no fix. But there are these treatment options, and these drugs are, by the way, going to kill her in 30 years or less, and they're not going to let her have any children." They never said lupus was going to kill her. They said the drugs were. So I told her then, and I told my parents then, I said, "Look, if the medical profession hasn't been able to figure this out for 3 months, maybe there's another profession that can figure it out. Maybe there's some other health specialties that can tell us what happened 3 months ago when all this
And
symptoms of pain started.
What was your background at this point? Just so the listeners know, what were you doing as a career at this point? Were you a mime? Were you raising parakeets? What was your job at this point?
I had actually just returned. I had just returned from a 2-year church mission with the Mormon Church, and was a first-year junior college student at Northlake College in Dallas.
Okay, so
I had no health expertise at all.
Okay, continue. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to give the listeners some context because someone might be going, yeah, but he's a doctor. Obviously, he's going to solve the problem himself. So I want to just give the listeners a little bit of context. Now, back to you, sir.
Sure. So I actually said to my parents, I said, look, if these guys can't figure it out, surely there's some other health field that can tell us what happened to her 3 months ago, because she was fine for the first 10 years of her life, and then all of a sudden she started hurting. I said, and something happened to her. I said, so if these guys can't tell us what it is, there's got to be someone else. Let's see if we can find them. I said, and if we can't find someone to do it, I will. And that is literally the moment where I decided that I was going to dedicate my life and my time to one singular motive, and that was to uncover what caused my sister to live in pain and then rid her body of that so she could live pain-free and without any drugs that would kill her and not let her have kids. That's where it started.
Wow.
All of it.
So how old were you at this time?
21.
So now at 21, did you then alter your educational path moving forward, or what did you watch a ton of YouTube videos? What was your next immediate? I think a lot of people want to solve a problem. I think a lot of people want to help somebody in need, but I think a lot of people maybe don't know what they would even do. Did you enroll in school and college? What did you do next?
Yeah, so my intention shifted from all of my time was spent playing basketball, period. I played basketball throughout high school, played at Northlake College. That's all I really wanted to do, was just get to college, play basketball, go off to the NBA. That was just my lifelong dream at that point.
Right.
All of a sudden, it completely switched to I'm now going to figure out how to fix my younger sister as the older protective brother. So immediately, I set up my schooling to get all of the credentials needed to get into med school. So I just went to my counselors, found out what is needed to get into med school. I enrolled in a pre-med program, and off I went. Went from Northlake College, got accepted at the BYU, got accepted at University of Utah's medical school. Before that even happened, though, my oldest son was born. His name is Bryce. When he was born, for the next 4.5 months from the day he was born, he never slept once for more than 15 minutes at a time. Never had a single bowel movement on his own. I had to stick my little finger up his rear end to get him to have a passive bowel movement multiple times a day. He was colicky and threw up everything he ate. We went to 9 different pediatricians looking for medical answers for why my son was behaving this way. They couldn't give us any reasonable explanation other than they thought he was colicky and he would grow out of it. And none of that was really acceptable. But if this was normal behavior, I knew I didn't want to be a parent to any more children than this one, because it was just misery for 4.5 months while at BYU completing my pre-med program. So 4.5 months later, the 9th medical doctor gives my son a 4th antibiotic. We give it to him, and within 5 minutes he goes into a grand mal seizure while nursing. I called that medical doctor to relate what's happening. He said the drug would have never done that. What did you do to your baby? Did you drop him or did you shake him? You did something. What did you do, Mr. Ardis? Wow. And immediately I was furious that he, not being in the home with me, would say that it wasn't something he did to take liability off of him and then put that blame on me.
Well, the name Ardis, by the way, Ardis, it comes from the word, I think it comes from the root word ardor, that fiery passion. So it seems kind of like a violent name. I could see just hearing your name how people could be scared. And I met you at a conference. You're a physically in shape guy. You're kind of a modern Viking guy. I mean, so I think the athleticism mixed with the ardor references, I think that's where on behalf of the doctor, I don't know him, but that's where I'm thinking he's coming from here. Back to you, sir. Sorry.
So I got pretty upset then. I had injured my shoulder playing intramural football up there. I actually dislocated my shoulder. A physical trainer at BYU recommended me to go up and see a physical therapist up in American Fork. I go up there. It's the second visit. This is on a Friday, and he's looking at me in this huge clinic in the very back, and he goes, Mr. Ardis, is that your kid screaming like that out in the lobby? And I said, how do you know it's my kid out there? And he goes, well, when you were here on Wednesday, there was a kid screaming out there the entire time. When you left, it left, and now you're back in here and it's doing the same thing. Is that your kid? Is he here with you? And I said, yeah, that's my kid. He goes, "What's wrong with him? Sounds like he's in pain." And I said, "Doctors don't know. They say he's colicky and he just screams night and day, all day. No, never had slept more than 15 minutes ever."
Wow.
At this point, he asked me to go get him out of the lobby and bring him back to the room, and I thought he was trying to be polite to his other waiting room customers or clients. So I went out there, got him, brought him back into the room, and he goes, "Put your kid on the table, please." And I was like, "What are you going to do to my kid?" And he goes, "Sounds like your kid's in pain. Can I just evaluate him real quick and see if there's a problem that's making him hurt?" And I said, "What's a physical therapist going to do to my kid?" And he goes, "I'm not a physical therapist. I'm a chiropractor." And at this point, I truly had no idea what a chiropractor was. Zero, nada. All I know, fast forward, this guy convinces me to allow him to adjust my kid. He looks up at me after he touches his neck for a few seconds, and he goes, "Was your son born with forceps or vacuum extraction?" And I said, "How would you even know either one of those?" And he goes, "The first vertebrae in his neck is rotated like 20 degrees. He's got extreme pain that doesn't allow him to rotate his head. That's why he's screaming so much. The bone's pressing on the nerves in his neck." And I said, "You mean those medical doctors did this to him?" And he goes, "Yeah, unknowingly." And I said, "Sure, go ahead and adjust him." He adjusted him, doing what I'd never seen before. He popped my little kid's neck.
Are you serious?
And, it was very gentle.
How old was your kid?
Made my kid freak out.
How old was your kid at this point?
He freaked. 4.5 months.
Wow. Okay.
Now the miracle of this is, he's screaming even worse than he was. I threatened the guy. I left the office without paying. I beelined it to my home down in Provo, Utah. And about 5 minutes from the clinic, with my son screaming nonstop, he literally passed out in the car, and his head dropped to his chest, totally silent. And I actually thought he died. So I pulled over in the emergency lane, jumped in the back seat. There was breathing motion in his chest and a little bit of air coming through his nose. So I thought he maybe had a stroke or something. So I ran home real quick because he was still alive, called the last medical doctor, gave my son a drug that gave him a seizure, and then blamed it on me. And I told him what happened, and I needed to know if I needed to bring him to come see him. And his response to me telling him this story was, "What kind of parent are you? You could have given your son a stroke or killed him allowing a chiropractor to adjust him." And I lost it. I just slammed the phone down. I couldn't believe this guy now was going to tell me again I've done something wrong with my son. Truth was, my son was asleep, and we put him in the crib for the first time. I just said, "Look, let's just go in and check on him every 10 minutes. Maybe he's actually asleep. I don't know." Anyway, every 10 minutes we went and checked on him. For 8 hours straight, he slept. 10th minute, we went in on the 8th hour. He was staring at the ceiling without crying. We picked him up. He nursed, went back to sleep while nursing for another 5 hours, had his first bowel movement in his diaper while he was asleep that second time. He slept through the night, every night after that. No more colicky, no more need of me to stimulate his bowels. That was the moment I decided I wanted to know what that chiropractor knew that the medical doctors didn't know, because what if I could apply that to help my sister? So I called the chiropractor, apologized for my behavior. He calls Parker College's president down here in Dallas.
Parker College is the big chiropractic school, correct? Is that right? Parker College?
It's huge.
Okay.
It's I think it's the greatest in the country by far, but it is a big
Your
school
story, by the way, this story is so good. I think I just had a bowel movement. This is crazy. Oh, yeah, back to you. Sorry, I got to clean myself up here. Keep going.
So that moment is where I decided then to drop my enrollment at University of Utah, go off to Parker College of Chiropractic, hoping to learn as much as I can about anything alternative that might help my sister. So in chiropractic school, I'd also heard a rumor that there were some people with fibromyalgia who actually benefited from acupuncture. So I also took acupuncture courses at the Dallas College of Oriental Medicine and completed my certification in acupuncture and graduated with my license in chiropractic at the same time. And then took those two modalities to Tennessee and set up a clinic to then start using patients as guinea pigs with chiropractic and acupuncture and see, can I reverse an autoimmune disease like lupus in patients? Only to find out that was a very limiting thing. It didn't actually reverse anybody's autoimmunity, but it did help a lot of people with symptoms. So at this same time, I had that I moved to Tennessee in my practice, I had a new daughter. She was born 6 weeks earlier. Her name is Savannah, and she was born with asthma. And she suffered with 10 to 12 asthma attacks every day for the first 2.5 years of her life. I went to medical doctors, of course. We had albuterol inhalers. She had 10 to 12 asthma attacks every day, regardless of what we did. So I started taking her to clinics around the country to see could any alternative health practitioners help me identify what's causing her asthma, because I'm convinced you can eliminate that, like you eliminated my son's crying, colic, bowel movement issues, right? So we were given all kinds of supplement regimens and all kinds of diagnoses and recommendations. Nothing cleared it up. But then I ended up at a seminar down in Florida, and I took all the kids with me. And my daughter was evaluated by the doctor there, and without knowing any of her clinical history, he said he was using a technique called muscle testing, and he evaluated her and said, he looked at me and he goes, Dr. Ardis, she's got a heart problem, actually. And I was curious to see if he was going to identify a lung issue because she dealt with asthma, but he didn't know anything about it. And he looks at me and he goes, your daughter's got a heart problem. Her heart muscle has been damaged by a medication. What drugs do you give her? And I said, I don't give her drugs. I'm a chiropractor. And he goes, no, I need you to focus. Your daughter has a breathing problem, correct? And I looked at him and I said, how would you know she's got a breathing problem? And he goes, because every kid we've ever evaluated that has heart stress has either reoccurring respiratory infections or asthma. And I said, you wouldn't find that with lungs? And he goes, no, we find it predominantly with heart issues. And then is the moment I realized when my daughter was born premature, 6 weeks early, they told us that in NICU they had to administer her a drug that would force the heart to pump blood into her lungs to inflate her lungs because they said they weren't inflated. And that was common in preemies. But they also told us that it's very common for premature babies to have asthma for the rest of their life. Well, this guy's now standing there telling me that there's a drug that actually caused her to have heart or damaged her heart to lead to asthma symptoms. And I looked at him and I said, you got to be kidding. They're doing this unknowingly to the kids because they made me aware that they thought that she would have asthma because most preemies have them, but they usually administer that drug too. This drug, he looks at me and he says, that drug had a side effect of damaging heart muscle tissue. No longer can her heart pump enough blood into the lungs to get air, therefore triggering an asthma attack. And I'm going to give you one supplement to give your daughter every morning, and within 2 months, you're going to be blown away because she'll no longer have asthma. It's just one tablet, and I want you to come find me. I'm going to teach you how you can do this for all your patients. And I was like, yeah, right. You know how many times I've heard this with other practitioners around the country? I went home to the hotel, had her actually chew up this little tablet at 2.5 years old, and this is no joke. She never had a single asthma attack or wheeze ever again from the first dose.
Okay, I have a bunch of questions. I have a bunch of questions real quick because I know there's Z. Dr. Z just walked in. Dr. Z, meet Dr. Ardis. A lot of doctors here.
Doctor.
Okay. These are the questions I have. Rapid fire real quick, Dr. Ardis, before I get back into this. Great. He's sharing some life-changing stories here.
Cool.
There's got to be somebody out there who's going, chiropractors. I've seen that Seinfeld episode. They don't help. So I would like to ask the rude questions on behalf of the listeners out there who are skeptics of chiropractic. Z, your brother's a chiropractor.
Yes, I'm a firm believer in him. So I'm not one of the skeptics. This question's not for me, but
I'm reading his cue card. I'm reading his notes.
I'm kind of curious what he's going to ask, though. I will admit
I just want to know, for somebody out there who says, there's no way this is real. Chiropractors can't help somebody. What would you say, Dr. Bryan Ardis?
I would say you haven't had the experiences I've had, nor the experiences of my patients.
Okay.
And it's true, most of us will be skeptics until we actually experience something ourselves. And then it literally changes your outlook on everything, right?
Absolutely.
So I had an experience. The experience was my daughter's asthma was completely reversed and eliminated from the first dose of a supplement. And we gave her one tablet every day. And after 2 months of giving it to her every day, she had no asthma attacks. We couldn't believe it from day one. But I went and found the guy who was doing a seminar in Cincinnati, and I asked him, I said, look, what you've done for my daughter, she hasn't had a single asthma attack or wheeze. How am I going to know when her heart's healed and she no longer needs the supplement? And he goes, you're going to have to come to my office and let me train you. So for the next year and a half, every month, I flew down to Florida, away from my practice and away from my family, and had him train me 3 days over a weekend period every month for a year and a half.
Wow.
At the end of a year of her taking the supplement, I would come home and do the muscle testing on her. She no longer tested for the supplement, so her heart was healed. She has, to this day, she is now 15 years old. She has never taken that supplement again. She has never had an asthma attack or a wheeze. She's in advanced choir. She's on club volleyball as well as high school volleyball teams. But she has never had to deal with the threat or fear of anxiety that comes when people struggle with asthma. And that was the goal. Well, when I saw this occur with my daughter, instantly I wanted to know, can I apply that technique to my sister to help reverse her lupus? And that's what we did. And the answer is we did it. It took about 12 years to get to this point from the time my sister was diagnosed with lupus.
Wow.
She had been treated with those 3 drugs over 12 years. Not only during that period was she diagnosed with lupus, 5 years later she was diagnosed with celiac disease. which is a gut problem and inability to break down gluten, which is a part of wheat. So her whole life changed dietary-wise at that point, at 16 years old. 2 years after that, she was diagnosed with pulmonary tuberculosis. Each of these two scenarios, she was told lupus was now attacking her gut to cause celiac disease, and now lupus was attacking her lungs and cartilage to cause pulmonary tuberculosis. By the way, both of those were incorrect. Lupus was never doing that. They already told us in the beginning that the 3 drugs would ultimately shut down her liver and her kidneys, and she would die by the age of 30. Ooh. Well, those aren't the only tissues that are damaged by those 3 drugs. So are your lungs, so are your gut. Oh. So anyway, my sister moved to Dallas, Texas when I set up my practice 10 years ago. She had gotten married. It was 6 months into her new marriage, her only marriage. She was a newlywed, and when she would do night prayers with her husband, she would have these visions and dreams all night long of her and her husband having kids, like her own kids. And she thought God was telling her that she was going to have children. But then she would wake up and then pray and say, how is this possible? Because I've been told since I was 11, I can't have kids because of these 2 drugs. And the impression to her mind was, your brother's going to fix it. Now, up until this point, it was a very hard time for me and my family because over these 12 years, my parents forbid me to help my sister. They were adamantly trusting the rheumatologists throughout several states that they were seeing that there was nothing that could be done about lupus. You cannot reverse it. You cannot cure it. So my dad took the position that if I gave her false hope, I would be hurting her.
Quick question.
So he forbid me to do that.
Your parents were Mormon. You were raised Mormon, correct?
That's correct.
And when I think of Mormons, I don't typically think of acupuncture.
What?
I typically
don't. Is that Mormon music? I'm not sure. What is that? What is that? Or is that acupuncture music?
This is the soundtrack for Mormon acupuncture.
Oh, of course it is. Yes, I'm a little rusty on my Mormonism.
He said earlier that he was learning acupuncture. I just was curious. Did the Mormons, were your parents opposed to acupuncture and just the entire field of chiropractic care as Mormons? Does that bother them? Were they okay with it? I don't know enough about the Mormon faith to really comment here. I just want to know from your perspective. Is that to factor into your dad's feedback?
I can really tell you that from a Mormon standpoint, I can just tell you what my standpoint was in my family, but I can also speak about the Mormon view. But as far as my family goes, they really just trusted the medical profession, the conventional medicine structure.
Got it.
And that's really all that I had growing up. That's why I'd never heard about chiropractors before, or the experience of my son. It just wasn't open to that. Anything was medication, vaccination, you name it. And in the Mormon world, I have learned since going to chiropractic school, holy cow, the Mormon culture is wide open to natural healing. They're under the premise that God can help you heal anything anyway. He created your body. He can help you heal. So anything that helps do that in a natural way is beneficial. They also do support medicine, obviously. But they even own their own hospital, like a lot of these Catholic hospitals are, and Methodist hospitals, and they have a LDS hospital in Salt Lake. But there is a big group of people that in the Mormon Church who are chiropractors and naturopaths.
No, Z and I have two final questions for you, because I know the listeners are going to want to learn more about you as a result of this interview. Now, you've since sold your practice. Am I correct? You've sold the practice?
That is true. There's 3 doctors there that worked for me for the last 5 years who are now doing what I've trained them to do.
And I met you through a conference where you have invested in the founding of a company. We're one of the founders of a company called TruLabs, which provides healthy supplements. TruLabs.com, I believe, is the domain. Tell me about TruLabs and what your involvement is in that. And again, as we're pressed for time here, give us kind of the highlight of TruLabs.com.
All right, so TruLabs.com, I had a patient who came to me with a diagnosed hypothyroidism. She was actually incorrectly diagnosed. She actually had hyperthyroidism and was being overdrugged by her thyroid. She was extremely sick. Her husband actually asked her to write letters to her kids because they thought she might be dying and didn't know if she was going to live. This patient is the wife of my business partner at TruLabs. So the CEO of TruLabs is Brandon Pogue. When he saw me change his wife's life, which then changed his family's life and marriage and home environment, he then became a patient of mine and immediately started thinking, because he's big into CrossFit and working out, and saw that as a vital part of his own health. He wanted me to help him formulate a healthy cycling on and off pre-workout system that is then unfolded, and we've now expanded what we've created, and we now have a protein product, a sleep product, an energy product for everyday energy. So that's where TruLabs came from, was a patient witnessing what we could do with natural supplements, vitamin, minerals, herbs, and then wanted me to help him formulate a product to help people that work out.
Brandon Pogues has calves like Dr. Z. I've seen him. And so, Dr. Z, what's your final question? Great calves. Must be the supplements.
must be the supplements.
TruLabs for great calves.
I want to give a shout out to chiropractors. I'm not sure I know any profession out there, particularly in the medical field especially, that does such a great job of bringing in vertical integration into their practice. My brother's a chiropractor, and he has done some vertical integration into his practice. And the ones that I've known, big friends with, or even, went in and had been their patient, they're always really good about, having other add-on things outside of the practice that are part of their practice. You know what I'm talking about? And I think so my hat's off to that. And I want to encourage anybody listening out there that does own a business to really think about how, and you can maybe, and the question is how, or maybe not the question, the statement, and you can say is just kind of touching on the thought of that and kind of expanding on that a little bit. But the setup is this, is that how a guy out there that owns a business, how, and maybe stuff he's sending out the door where they're going to go buy something else, how they can capture that and bring it under their own roof or their own umbrella. That vertical integration. You know what I'm talking about? It's kind of like I own an auto auction, and now we're going to be doing some recon work, some work on the engines and
vertical integration.
Here with Dr. Ardis. But my point is, a lot of times, extra money standing right there in front of you. It's kind of like you say, well, you need this supplement, or you need this thing in your life. Here's what it is. Now go buy it. And they walk out the door and they go spend their money down at the CVC or wherever they go, or and so how is it that chiropractors, one, have done such a great job of that? And then can you encourage our listeners out there, for those who have a business, and that mindset of trying to bring stuff they're sitting out the door to try to bring it in their door? You know what I'm talking about, boss?
I do.
All right. Well,
I'll share with you what in business made us so successful, actually, or at least me privately in practice, and then with the doctors we've had since. I do want to just end the story with, my sister is now pregnant with her fourth kid, hasn't been on a single lupus drug for 9 years.
Come on now.
Whoa,
man.
And we were able to reverse her lupus, reverse her celiac disease, and she no longer has pulmonary tuberculosis.
Wow.
She was told she would live with all three of those the rest of her life. It is possible. You have to, and you should never give up at looking for answers to your health, period. That's just my experience now. Now, in the realm of business, I often wondered, why was it that in 9 years of having to practice here in Texas, 5 years in Tennessee, I went to a town I'd never been in, put up my sign, and then started helping people. And then without doing any marketing, I had over 16,000 patients come to this clinic in Frisco from 15 other countries, including our own. And every state in the union was represented. The greatness was when doctors would come to me constantly and ask me, how can I be as successful as you are? How can I actually build my practice? I would ask them, what's your story? And they'd go, well, I don't know what my story is. And I'd go, well, what are you telling people that you're passionate about? And for one, I'd have to say, if you're going to get into business for yourself, anyone who's wanting to do something, if they're not finding success, they're outside of something they're passionate in. And they should really focus their attention on something they're passionate about, because then it's easy to sell, it's easy to convey, and people are sucked into your passion. And if you have a story that goes along with why you're so passionate about that field or that occupation, people are going to naturally gravitate to you and want to actually listen to you, participate in what you're offering, or buy from you what you're offering. And that was just the golden thing I found in practice. Number one, be able to listen to those who are speaking to you. Then number two, be able to communicate to them that there's an answer. And then if you've got a story that backs up why it is you're in that field, you're going to have more success than you realize.
Dr. Ardis, I appreciate you. I appreciate you being here, because this is like so much great knowledge. So if you're passionate and you have that core story, how do you then vertically integrate these other products?
For my TruLabs products, you mean?
Or like in your chiropractic center,
products?
you know what I mean? Or how do you introduce, because I think I think Z, what you're hitting at is chiropractors are very good at introducing their patients to so many solutions. You know what I mean? They don't just say, I only do this, go over here now.
And then not only that, but they're also really good about bringing them into their practice and selling them. And that's the vertical integration. If that's confusing to somebody out there listening, what that means is that, let's say you own a car repair shop, and all of a sudden you realize you're buying a lot of tires. You know, you might open up a tire store, so therefore you can now vertically integrate that. You're buying tires from yourself that you need in that business from this business. So that's that vertical integration of adding things on that you're already using. You're just not making money on versus making money on it. Go ahead.
No, I get it. Yeah, so even in our chiropractic practice, for example, if I just started adjusting people, then added acupuncture to it, and then learned, we constantly are going to seminars as chiropractors, learning to take a holistic approach to how the body actually works as a whole. I really think that's been the detriment to healthcare in general across the country is when you start specializing in one part of the human body, you literally don't look at the whole system as a whole, and so you're just referred out to people because they don't address that part of the body. Chiropractors specialize in the central nervous system and its impact and communication to every part of the body, and then a lot of them take a look at acupuncture and improving energy flow throughout the body, which is something I did. They go get certified in clinical nutrition to actually apply health and food and minerals and vitamins to the body. And so if you are open and interested in the processes of the body as a whole and seeing your patient reach maximum health benefit or improve their activities of daily living as a maximum, you're constantly going to be researching and searching for things you can add to helping them. And the only way you're going to actually get them to actually buy into the things you're also providing, other modalities or other products or supplements or services, is you're going to have to be able to communicate to them what the importance of those things are. So in the realm of health, it's an easy transition. People are already trusting you. They're already on your table for you to help them. Now you're researching on their behalf and telling them what's there for them. And it's no different in any other field. I don't care if it's dog training. I don't care if it's in massage therapy. The more you can actually give your patients as a result of your own interest in them to do research and take time to learn, it's an easy upsell to offer them something else to help benefit their lives.
How about dog massage therapy? I mean, let's just combine the two, right?
Got it.
I mean, there you go, right?
I mean, the person's already lying.
Bring your
there.
Labradoodle in and, you know.
See, the person's already lying there. They've already had the incision. You might as well put something else in there.
Might as well. I mean,
I'm just kidding. Hey, Dr. Ardis, I appreciate you. We have to go interview a guest from the hit TV show Songland. I hope you have a great day.
Nice to meet you, Dr. Ardis. Have a great one.
Thrive. You guys are great. Thank
All
you
right,
for
take care.
taking the time to have me on your show.
Appreciate it,
buddy. Take care.
Bye. Bye. And now, without any further ado, 3, 2, 1, boom! So, Z, back to mimes. Do you really like mimes?
Yeah, kind of, sort of. I said yeah. I mean, it's complicated. I don't want to tell you the story, but it's complicated.
You ever been in a cockpit before?
I've looked into one, but never been in one.
You ever hang around a gymnasium?
A few times.
You like movies about gladiators?
Oh, yeah. I love Gladiator.
Have you ever been in a Turkish prison?
Just that one time.